Welcome to the Non-Beta Alpha Podcast, your source for unique insights into current market trends, with host Ryan Morfin, CEO of Wentworth Management Services. Today we're sitting down with David Henry, President and CEO of Status Jet, to discuss everything that you need to know about the private aviation industry and what to expect for the future of this industry as we move forward into the great American recovery. This show is brought to you by Status Jet. Elevate your status.
David, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
So David, you're the president and CEO of Status Jet, and you guys help people get to where they need to go. Could you talk to us a little bit about the private jet transportation industry, what's been happening? During COVID last year, travel pretty much grinded to a halt. It's starting to come back commercially, but I think a trend has changed, especially for successful executives and business folks. And I know wealth management's a key target industry for your company. What are some of the trends that are playing out post-COVID in the private jet transportation industry?
First and probably the biggest, when COVID really started hitting, we saw a big influx of people, like whether it be East Coast, West Coast, Texas, that wanted to move family members or get to their homes in that March, April timeframe. So we had a lot of activity as things were shutting down. They're shut down in Europe and COVID was hitting here. Once that kind of settled, we actually were moving people in Europe, down from Spain to Morocco, believe it or not. But there was a lot of, people that have flown private or people maybe that haven't flown private. That came to a very big kind of standstill in kind of April, May. But then we saw a very big uptick with even some new people, maybe that they didn't want to fly commercial, to your point. They didn't want to get in an airplane with a lot of people. So they were exploring how to move their family members or how to get home. So we did see, and we still are seeing, an influx of new customers into our business on the charter side that maybe haven't flown private before. So that's kind of made up for, I don't want to bore you with numbers, but there's two silos when you fly private. You can fly, if you own an airplane, you can be Part 135, which means you can charter it out. Or if you're Chase Bank or Exxon Mobil here in Dallas, you have it Part 91, which is business only. Part 91 travel is way off still. The New York sector, Teterboro, is still, I believe the last time I saw, 40% down. So a lot of the big companies, we call it the big iron, like in New York, LA, the corporations are still, most of those fleets are grounded. So they're not flying executives, not business meetings, things like that. But the Part 135 side, which is where we live, as far as the charter side, is up, especially June through this month. That helps answer that question.
Now that's very interesting. And are the price points coming down, or are we'll call it higher end consumers willing to step up to kind of grow into that price point that maybe wasn't affordable to them pre-COVID, but post-COVID is looking attractive, so they don't have to deal with the claustrophobic nature of traveling today? I mean, I just got off a plane, and you're stuck on a plane for a few hours, and you got cloth over your face. I'm trying to understand if prices are coming down or if people are stepping up.
Oh, I think actually we're seeing prices increase a little bit just because of demand. So private aviation is, there's three ways you can participate in private aviation. You can own your own plane. That's number one. And to own your own plane, you really should have to fly 300 more hours a year to really justify it. The second way is to, do it fractional, like a NetJets program or a FlexJet program, where you buy into, you strip a pretty big check up front, then you guarantee so many hours a year. The third way is what we do, just straight out on demand charter, where you can either, we do sell jet cars, we do put money in account, but we have some clients that just call us up and go, hey, Status Jet, we want to go from LA to Aspen. So we'll provide three different options. So those are really the three ways you can use our business. All three sectors are up. but charters probably, we took a hit there in the first part of the year, like I said, but then most numbers I see coming through our market and our business has been very positive the second half of the year, and probably will remain that way through 2021. So you can still get deals, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's, like airlines really hurt pretty bad, but now with less capacity, they're pretty full. I just got back from a flight to get to go private that time. So.
And just curious, not a political question, but more of a policy question. Does the private aviation industry, did it qualify for some of the CARES Act or the PPP programming? I know there was this new version that just came out, and something like $15 billion was targeted for the transportation industry. I didn't know if that also qualified for, because FBOs have a lot of employees. I mean, there's a lot of people in that industry.
To answer your question, yes, especially the airlines, but even on our side, any aviation-related company could participate in the PPP. There are some, I heard some of the larger operators that have fleets of airplanes that certainly got even more like an airline. So I haven't, the latest round that's coming out, I haven't really studied up on enough yet to know, but definitely in the aviation space, we qualified for some of it, but not.
Well, I'm curious. So you laid out the three: it's own, fractional, or on demand. Maybe for our viewers and for myself, could you explain to us, so what is the math behind wanting to own a jet, and what do you think the annual cost is from an aspirational standpoint for those of us who would love to someday own a jet? How do you look at the numbers? How do you sell that to a family office or to a wealth management team?
So we'll start with ownership. So I usually have a salt and pepper shaker in front of me, but I'll say the peppers, I always put the pepper over here and say, the cost of the airplane doesn't matter. Let's focus on the salt. And the salt's what it costs to own an airplane. Those are two different deals. So I like to focus with clients or family office on here's what it costs to have that airplane every year. And if you fly 100 hours, 200 hours, you have to be really comfortable with that number. If that's not a comfortable number, it doesn't matter what we pay to buy the airplane. So, rule of thumb. So let's say we took a mid-sized jet, we'll look at a pre-owned Lear 60. So they've been around for 30 years. Let's say we looked at a 15-year-old Lear 60. Just making this up, but I've done them. So a Lear 60 will hold 7 people. It won't go coast to coast, but from Dallas, it'll hit both coasts nonstop. From New York, easily Florida, Dallas, one stop to LA, just to give you an idea. So it's a mid-sized business jet. We could probably buy one for $1.8 million to $2.3 million and get a really good solid airplane that, maybe has 4,500 hours on it, which is probably the equivalent of 50,000 miles in a car, maybe. So that airplane would cost you, with 2 pilots, if you flew it 150 hours a year, probably right at $900,000 to $1 million, just in not counting any capital interest, any of that. No depreciation, but just the hangar, the 2 pilots, maintenance, cost to run. So those are the numbers you have to be good with. But like you tell any client, time is your most valuable asset. So a lot of people think, it's just a bunch of rich people flying around the airplane. It's not. Private aviation serves 75% more airports than commercial. So you look at the number, there's only, I think, don't quote me the exact number, but it's like 561 airports served by commercial airlines in the United States. There's almost, I think it was 9,000 private airports around the United States. So just do the math. So that's really some of the dynamics that come into play. But that's kind of own it. Now you can get a smaller jet, like a Citation, might be 750. You want to go up to a Gulfstream, it might be $1.5 million. But it's really a time value of money. It's a time machine. So it allows you to get to more places, more cities faster than, you've been to the Northeast, you go up there, there's a nor'easter, and it shuts everything down. And if you're in Texas, you're in Dallas doing business in Sacramento, California, there might be a couple nonstops, but if you have to go to Bakersfield and a few other places, private aviation allows you to do that from a business standpoint a lot better. Does that help?
And yeah, no, that's very helpful. And I guess one question I also have then for you is, when you're doing this analysis, let's just call it $1 million a year, at 150 hours, 200 hours. When you break it down for people, how much more productive is this? And does it really just depend on where these people need to go? Meaning, if you're not going to the major hub cities, then you probably need private aviation. If you're only going to like New York or DC, then
Sure.
it may be harder.
So pre-COVID, I'll answer both ways. Pre-COVID, I got a couple friends here in the Dallas area that own companies, and they go to New York a lot. And he's like, David, he's looked at jets, he's looked at flying private. He will if his family goes somewhere as a group, but he goes, I'll just go first class on whatever airline. I'm happy with that. And sure, that's up to you. But when you're sitting on an airplane, you've got people sitting next to you that you don't know. And if you're doing a business deal, sometimes it's better to have your own room, your own office. And a private jet is really an office in the sky. So what we see are some people that maybe have 6 people that need to travel at a time. Then it kind of makes sense. We'll just go ahead and do private. And this is pre-COVID. Post-COVID, with this whole contact tracing, it's really affected us because we've seen business pick up, not from those big corporations like we talked about, but like, mid-sized corporations. But we've had to cancel a lot of flights due to contact tracing. So they want to go meet. So the last thing you want to do is get out of the airline with 150 people minimum, try to fly to a meeting with somebody and work on a business deal, and all of a sudden it cancels. So that's a whole different dynamic that we're not used to. We fly a few college basketball teams. We work with some of the NCAA schools, and I gotta tell you, it's been a nightmare with having to change flights the day before because this team got COVID. And I won't really say who they are, but it's been a challenge.
Yeah, our research team here pulled some info. I thought it was fascinating, especially because I travel a lot, that the average individual when they're flying commercial is exposed to an average of 750 different touch points, from getting your ticket to going through TSA to, buying a soda before you get on the plane. And it's drastically decreased when you fly private. It's roughly less than 20 touch points. And so, if you can afford it for your team,
Sure.
and like you said, it can slow business down. I mean, COVID, somebody in an office, there's an outbreak, or, you've got a lot to execute on. And, this new kind of virus slowing down business can really be devastating to transactions.
The
It
airlines,
does make sense, I think, for.
Yeah, the airlines are doing a pretty good job with what they have to work with. It's just there's so many people, and they're really. You could probably know the number better than I do, but I believe they're still operating at about 40-50% capacity in the country. So flights are full, but there's less flights right now. So
Yeah, a lot of those planes are still out in the desert, parked out there, waiting to come back to the fleet. It's fascinating to me that, so they are packing it in. Every flight is full. That's right. They're about 50-60% right now. They had a good Christmas season, which is interesting. But my question for you is, some of the major airline CEOs come on TV and say that it's safe to fly. And, is there any evidence you've seen from the aviation industry that suggests that people don't catch COVID on airplanes? Do you think that's a believable stat, or are they just trying to talk shop to get people to feel safe and comfortable to get back on the planes today?
I'm certainly not an expert in the medical side, but there really hasn't been a lot of studies that I've seen on 200 people on an airplane. The problem is, and I'm not an advocate for this, is the contact tracing. So if you got 200 people on an airplane, somebody has COVID, you're not going to know. I mean, they're not checking your temperature, they're not doing anything, and I'm not saying they should. But if you've got 8 people on a private plane, you kind of know who they are, right? So you can require whatever you want. And the airlines are doing a good job though on cleaning. I mean, they really have. They do a good job from what I can tell with what they have to work with. But that's just a lot of people that close together. And I don't know about you, but if you sit on a flight for 3 hours and have to wear a mask the whole time, which I do, on private, you wouldn't ever do that. It's not a reason to do it, but I got to tell you, that was uncomfortable last time I did that. Like 3 hours, you're like, oh. So I have seen some studies on private. The operators that we work with, we go through their whole COVID-19 protocols. We make sure that, that pilots aren't flying commercial to get to a connecting flight. There's little things because now they're exposed, and pilots wear masks and they clean the airplanes after every flight. So I haven't heard a lot of on the airlines, but I know private there really hasn't been any issues that we know of just from an outbreak.
And so the next one is the fractional ownerships, and what's the what we'll call the commercial pitch there for individuals to move in that direction?
So, and they're great companies, NetJets and people like that. They do a really good job working with your industry, financial planners. And, they like to go into those people and say, look, you're going to write one check, might be $1.5 million up front. You're going to get access to a mid-sized jet. You will never fly the same airplane, by the way, but it's expensive. I mean, but they're good. So if you want to check the box, doing aviation is going to cost this much a year for this family or this business person, you can do that. We have a lot of clients that do both. We have clients that have maybe a card like that, and maybe they use that for the holidays or really on one ways. So if you look at how our business works, this is it's a piece of metal that flies to the sky. There's no cheap way to do it. And a lot of people have tried to sell the seats. A lot of people have tried to, let's put multiple people. It's expensive. And, running airlines is tough. As you watch that industry probably over the years, they don't always make money. But in our business, the fractionals, I think the real value they bring, let's say you lived in New York, you had a home in Naples, Florida, and Aspen, Colorado, and you sold your company, you retired, you've got this fractional. If you do a lot of one-way flights, like I'm going to go to Florida for a month, then I'm going to go to Aspen for a month, and then go back to New York in 2 months. You're paying for a one-way flight. Now the hourly rate's about $7,200 to $7,700 an hour after you put that big check up front. We could do that flight in the $5,000 to $6,000 an hour range, just to give you a number.
And what is that? What do you mean when you say big check? Because I haven't looked into it. Like, is it a $50,000 check? Is it $150,000?
Fractional. Sorry, a fractional. I don't know the exact numbers, but no, you've got to put. It's typically you're buying 1/8 share of the airplane, typically. So that's going to be $1 million plus up front if you do that program. There are some tax benefits for doing that. So because you own part of it, you do get some tax. I don't give legal or tax advice, but there are some benefits. There's also a downside if that plane, when they sell it in 20 years, isn't where you could be hit with a liability bill. But that's kind of how fractionals work. I mean, they're great at service. They'll never leave you stranded.
Well, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. So when you sell it, you can have a liability. You have a capital call.
I was in a meeting in Florida with some gentlemen with Tiger 21, and I was doing kind of what we're doing, just talk about the business. And he was like, man, I won't name the company, but he was furious. He goes, I had one of those shares, and I got hit. When I got out of it, they sold that plane with a pretty substantial tax bill. And I kind of looked into it, and yeah, sure, it's like anything. That's how you write it off. There's a lot of business reasons to write off an airplane if you own it. You've got sometimes bonus depreciation, you've got regular depreciation. You can depreciate on a 5-year MACRS or 7 years, depending on. So but like anything, you're kicking the can down the road, right? So But that's the reason fractionals exist. You're seeing new companies like Wheels Up come into the marketplace that are heavily capitalized. And Wheels Up has a different model. They're former Marquee guys that were part of NetJet. So Marquee has a jet car division, which is really NetJet. So it makes sense. That's their jet car division. So you could go into Marquee and buy 150 hours or 100 hours a year, but you're still going to pay in that higher range. So Wheels Up came in with a interesting concept. It's kind of not talk about competitors, but this is, I think, good for your financial advisors to understand, the whole eco space of private aviation. So Wheels Up came in with two airplane types. They came in with a King Air and a Citation Excel. And I think you could join for 18 grand and you pay an hourly rate. That hourly rate on a King Air is about $4,700 an hour. And on the Citation Excel, it's about $7,200 an hour. To me, that's high. I mean, we can usually do better than that without the fees. So, but they're good. They're you've seen another company. I mean, that's probably the one if you watch golf or something. But so you got different. Then you have the space we're in. You have the on-demand piece where if you call me up today and said, David, quote from Dallas to Houston, we'll go to our network and give you 2 or 3 different options for your clients. And just say, here, we've already vetted these operators. We use the same safety protocols that any operator does. So, fine. Private aviation is very safe, and so is commercial.
And so, in the on-demand scenario, obviously you're just using it when you need it. One of the questions I had is it so it's somebody else's jet, and then they basically agree to some type of usage contract with you guys. So
yeah, earlier in our podcast we talked about the Part 135 and Part 91. So you can't just, if you own an airplane, say I want to. I'm going to give you some really good advice for your advisors real quick. You need to be real careful with some of these people that own their own airplanes. When they go let their buddies take them, hey, why don't you take my plane? You pay for the fuel, pay for the pilots. They can't do that. That's absolutely a violation of the IRS, FAA, unless they do it properly with a wet lease or a dry lease. I don't want to get into the legal part of this, but you'd be amazed how many people I see their names on buildings. You drive by it. I'll just take my plane and just cover the pilots. Now you're becoming a charter operator. You can't do that. It goes to that 135 side. So you have to be real careful. You'd be amazed. People with very high net worths don't think to do that or look at that. I see it all the time. So it's just be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's the safest type of plane? There's some people who don't take private aviation because they feel it's not as safe as commercial, but what are some of the safer types of aircraft that are in these types of fleets?
I don't see any difference in private and commercial. I don't think there's any statistic that says one's safer than the other because they're so rigid from the FAA, which is good. This is what you want government to do, right? You want government to do a good job with an industry to make sure it's safe, and they do. So I don't think there's any big difference between private or commercial. I think from a safety, the age of the airplane doesn't matter as much as the maintenance of the airplane. If you float American Airlines, not this year, I think they're all finally grounded, but they had MD-80s that were 30 years old they were flying until about a year ago. So it's not so much the age, it's the maintenance, has been taken care of. And those are the main things. So it really isn't like a Gulfstream isn't safer than a Falcon. A Lear isn't safer than a Hawker. It's just really, the maintenance is so regimented that if that's followed, and you pretty much have to do that to fly it, you should be in good shape. I wouldn't worry about the age as much as I would worry about has it been properly maintained and they're not cutting corners, things like that.
Yep, no, that makes a lot of sense. And if you've done international travels during COVID, How is that changing? Like, so if Americans want to go to Canada or Mexico, is there a lot of additional paperwork? Yeah.
So I guess the United States announced yesterday that starting, I think, January 26th, all the incoming passengers to the United States have to have a COVID test. So whether it's international, whether it's private, whether it's commercial, so that's a big deal. That's the first time that's happened. We've had a lot of problems getting clients to Canada. Canada's been shut down for quite some time. We were able to fly some folks out of California and Seattle that were Canadian citizens. I believe it's almost like we need a ticker on our website, Ryan, because it changes almost every week. Who's open, who's got 14-day restrictions, who's like Mexico right now, we do a lot of flights to Cabo. Mexico is probably the most open country that we fly into. I just got back from there, and they did a reasonably good job with the safety precautions, except for the airport. That was just it. But like Turks and Caicos was closed for a while. Now it's open. Bahamas are open. Hawaii still has Hawaii, if you're coming from the mainland, you have to have a COVID test. And I believe, don't quote me on this, you have to take one when you get there, because otherwise it's a 14-day quarantine. So that's probably been, and I'll shut up here in a minute, but the quarantine has been the biggest problem, like in New York, for example. So in the height of the early COVID, I guess season 1, when New York, New Jersey was really getting, obviously all the problems that we all saw in the number of cases, we had a lot of trouble getting people in there and out of there because they didn't want to have to quarantine for 14 days. So that really affected our business more so than even just the COVID, just the quarantine. And how do we get people in and out? And you're starting to hear rumblings of that again. So.
That's very interesting. Well, so tell us a little bit about the history about your company and then how you started StatusJet and kind of how you guys operate.
So I kind of grew up in the radio business in Texas, here in Dallas. Did that for a long, long time, and I've always kind of been an airplane nut. But I kind of saw where radio was headed, so I went to work, started a social media company that ended up selling and learned a lot about digital media and things like that, which is really helping us today. I went in to work with a gentleman named Randall Reed, had a company in Houston called Starbase, moved it here. But about 6 years ago, I decided to start my own company. So with a few investors, we saw an opportunity to really build. If you drew a line kind of from Los Angeles across the country south, we do a lot of marketing focus in those areas. New York City is important. It's a very crowded space up there. A lot of competition there in Chicago, but we're one of the largest brokers in the Southwest. So we built it with good people, good service. We tie into people like yourselves, financial advisors. Now I've learned a long time ago, just give it away free. Just say, here's what this business is. You decide to go with another company, then I'll still give you. I'm sure you guys operate very similar. Here's what we do, and I'm very clear. Here's how we make our money. But we're long-term players. We're not looking for that big hit over the fence. We want, the best thing we can do is do a good job, and that client refers us to a friend. Like your business, I would think that's the ultimate, is when you do a good job and you refer.
Yep. No, the referral sale is very important in our industry, as it is, I'm sure, in yours. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, given your marketing background as well, just how do you look at marketing to, what I'll call the mass affluent segment? Because there's probably a lot of corollaries between how you go and approach marketing, and our financial advisors should be doing the same.
It's we do a lot of online marketing, a lot of Google and things like that. It's very expensive, but it's also very wasteful. So that's one way. We like to try to, get people that, it's helped us during COVID. They always say don't stop advertising. And I made a tough decision back in March. I kept our marketing going. and when everything was not looking good, but it paid off for us. We started to get those people that maybe hadn't flown private. We're looking around for private aviation companies, and we have a pretty good social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. We've spent a lot of time, tying ourselves into universities. For example, SMU here in Dallas, TCU in Fort Worth, Texas Tech, Tulane, there's some in the Texas area. But we like that high-end donor to those universities. So we've actually sponsored, we're the official private jet company for SMU athletics. So we do fly their basketball team, we took the football team to a bowl game, and but we also cultivate that high-end donor because they associate us with that university, and we kind of try to target that market. We work with groups like Tiger 21, which I'm sure your people probably know some of those people. We've done a good job working with them and doing some joint, kind of like this. Here's all the private jet for dummies. Here's what you need to know, and here's the gotchas in private aviation. And I'll get into that in a minute. This is where you do have to be careful, because when you select, well, I'll get into that in a second. But back to the marketing, I'm trying to think of what else we do. But we try to do cold calling. We try to do reach out. I always tell our salespeople, our specialists, this is something that can make people money. It can save them time. And we fly a few high-profile people, which we don't really say who we obviously fly, but one of them is on one of the big networks and does sports. But they want to get home. They want to go do their job, and they want to go, when that thing's over, they want to get home to their kids and family. That's one thing private aviation can do versus an airline schedule where you're trying to go, well, I got that flight and I can't go until the morning. So those are some of the reasons. But our marketing, so that's the hardest part. How do you reach? We have two markets. We go after the owner / CEO, or and we go after the executive assistant, that executive admin, because sometimes, and that's two different ways to market, right? So we try to get both with different messages, because sometimes CEOs stuck. I gotta get to Miami. Get me an option. So they're out there online looking for. So it's two different targets.
Yep. Yeah. Talking about the sports. So are they taking like 737s you're chartering for the entire team, or do you have to take like a fleet of planes, like small planes?
We can charter you a blimp if you want it. Just kidding. So like on basketball teams, so most collegiate Division I men's teams pre-COVID would fly 50-seat, like Embraer 145s. You've been on American Eagle or Continental, whatever they call that, Express. The women's typically use a 30-seat jet. Football teams tend to take like 737 seats, 180, and plus all that cargo on it. We flew SMU to a bowl game last year in Florida, and we flew them on a 767 and a 737. They took like the band, all the equipment, cheerleaders, and all that stuff. So last December, we flew 800 people into Dominica, little island in the Caribbean, from New York and Miami. And we had to get them to St. Martin. And then we had the ability to do this. Then we had about 20 different smaller airplanes from all over the Caribbean kind of going to this one country. So that was quite a feat. But most of our clientele, Brian, are business owners that, they do 10, 12 trips a year for business, maybe a couple for personal. We, have a few people that, may have sold out and retired, and just kind of, that's our mix, and a few colleges and things like that.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, I think the travel industry is going to continue to, bounce back here. I think as people get the vaccine. What are your thoughts on the rollout of the vaccine? Is it not going fast enough? Is it going fast enough? And what's your forecast for how fast the transportation industry bounces back?
So I have a couple good friends here in Dallas that are pretty high up in the medical food chain, and I just think it seems slow to me. Uh, but I've also heard horror stories of like at this hospital they had 2,000 vaccines, but only 1,500 people got inoculated, and they threw out the other 500. Just typical political stuff. It doesn't matter what party you are, but just that's what happens. So I'm trying to get my 90-year-old dad vaccinated, and it seems to be slow here in the Dallas area for some reason. But I do think that I kind of was optimistic, and I'm one of those people that always looks at the glass half full. But I was hoping by midsummer we would see. But I think it's going to be this time next year before you see really. And I got a good friend that's a big part of American Express Travel, and that travel industry has been hammered, like hammered. So I'm hoping. We're seeing people get up and leave. People want to go travel now. They feel, whether they're sick and tired of being home or people are starting to move around. I think the vaccine's only going to help. So I hope it's sooner than this time next year. But I think our business, knock on wood, I think it'll be consistent. I don't see anything.
Yeah, what the media doesn't talk about is that you've got 35 million people who had COVID and have recovered. And as far as I'm concerned, they're probably getting back out there and traveling again.
I'll give my personal opinion on the colleges. I'm a senior at Texas Tech. I was just out there this weekend moving her back in her house, and all of her friends. They all had COVID. And now you're seeing these colleges and NBA teams struggle. It's almost like you should just let everybody go out there and not worry about all this isolation. It doesn't seem to be working. That's just listen, there are high-risk people that, like my dad, who's 90, is high risk, right? And he's somewhat healthy for a 90-year-old. But, I know a lot of people have had COVID, and most were fine, and a couple got sick and took them a long to get better. So I think every time there's a vaccine put in, I think it's going to get better. I know cases have spiked to a new high, but I also know that I don't think we know what to know. I think everybody's kind of confused. What numbers do you believe and what numbers do you? But I'll tell you, we have a lot of conversations with clients about, the safety and, what happens, a new thing. What happens if I book a jet and we get COVID? Like what happens? These are good questions because, normally if you book a jet with us, there's a window you can get out. There's a point that you're kind of, and if it's a one-way, you buy a one-way up front. You don't, because you're taking that airplane off the market. But like with these basketball teams, we were able to negotiate a lot different terms and with our operators, and they've been really good. They understand if it's COVID or something like that. They can work with us on moving flights and schedules, things like that. So, kind of rambled there. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, what's your view on the U.S. economy in 2021, just from your optics looking at the economy, and then for your industry? Like, are you optimistic? You said you're a glass half full type of person. What are your thoughts on where we're entering into this new period?
I'm really worried about the overall economy. Texas has been, obviously booming for a long time, but when you shut down restaurants and you shut down businesses, it affects everybody. It affects those people that work there. Now we're giving them a lot of money, and I guess we should, but it also affects the companies that own, the people that own those companies. And I heard Texas ran at a deficit for the first time in I don't know how long, but look at New York, beautiful city, great city. I don't know how long it's going to take to come back, but if you're not allowed to work and you can't go out to I believe, and maybe I'm a little more conservative, but I think you should stay open. And if you don't want to go, don't go. That's just kind of where I'm from. But I'm worried. I think, forget the politics. I think there's going to be a lot of taxes. It's going to be a lot of bailout, and I don't think that's good for any of our businesses, personally. but it's also a pandemic. So we're a
Yeah.
little more insulated, not to, our I personally, I don't think I know of a client we've lost because they don't fly private anymore, but like oil and gas, we're in Texas. So that sector has slowed down. Oil and gas guys, when times are good, man, they're buying planes and flying. But when that oil drops, production drops, especially here in Texas, it'll affect that market fast. So we have seen that market slow down.
So just a few other questions for you. So, what are your thoughts today? I mean, the country seems pretty divided, along partisan lines. Any thoughts on how, as Americans, we bridge this gap going forward?
Well, if I were President Biden, I would have already handled it differently. I think you've got to let the past be the past, whether you like President Trump or not. I don't think anybody feels good about our Congress right now. I don't feel good about our Republicans or Democrats. Too much fighting, but you turn on the news today and they're talking about impeachment. I think that doesn't help. And I'm not going to get into what I think, but I hope and I pray for the country that this new president will really reach across the aisle and get something done, because we really need it. I mean, there's a lot of people out of work. We do live in a little bit of a isolated bubble with our clientele, but I've never seen food lines in Dallas, Texas, ever. And I drove by one in Plano, which is a very affluent county, up where you are, Allen County. And it wrapped around the community college just a few months ago. And that was a real eye opener for me. I was like, God, these are like nice cars and people that were just trying to get food. So I'm really concerned about this year. I hope Congress really does roll up their sleeves and get something done. I hope so. The country needs it. So I guess I'm optimistic that'll happen.
Absolutely. What books are you reading right now, or any podcasts you're listening to? What are you doing to kind of keep
the
yourself
podcast thing I'm starting
growing?
to get into. I'm really, as a radio guy, I'm starting to get into it, like Lynn Beck a little bit, some of those guys. But I just read again, it's along What Color's Your Parachute, just motivational books and things. But I'm really this year, I'd like to get in. I'd like to hear from you maybe in a couple of good podcasts besides yours. I've just really seen podcasts. I think what you're doing is great. The last 5 years, when I left radio 10 years ago, we knew it was coming. We're talking about satellite radio and all the competitors but I see more and more people sitting there listening to podcasts because it's on demand. They can do it when they want to. They want to hear about private aviation. You just gave them a reason to go listen to you. If they want to hear about, REIT investment or something, they can probably go listen to that. But I think that's fascinating. It's something I want to do more of this year.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the lessons that you learned, going through the pandemic and being a CEO of a business? Is there anything that, you're looking back at 2020, you're like, wow, that didn't really see that coming, and here's what I learned from it?
Well, just like any business, and I wish I had all the answers, but cash flow, you're going along and you don't think you got your marketing, you got your employees. Our biggest expenses are people. We don't have lavish offices around the country. I mean, a lot of our work's done on the telephone. That's hard because I'm trying to teach these guys, quit emailing people, get on the phone, talk to them. But we have clients all over the country. So, but, just you gotta watch, if I could go back this year, it was a little scary for a few months when your revenue just drops. And all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? But I left the marketing on for the most part. And that was tough. I sweated that. But you know what? It paid off. But, I think you just got to keep money in reserve, and you got to, sometimes things happen. But this came out of nowhere, and we weren't prepared for it. But we also didn't have to lay anybody off. We fought through it. So I hope that the worst is behind us. It seems to be, but at least there's a vaccine. And you got to give President Trump a lot of credit for pushing that through. So now they just need to get it out. I think that's going to make just mentally for people a big difference. But I think just watching the cash flow and really, we've looked at where to spend our dollars. How good is online marketing? We do a lot of outreach. We do we have a pretty big database. We do every week we send out kind of a one-way specials. And the last couple of years we did the same thing. It kind of was so. This year we've gotten a lot more activity from it. So I don't know if there's just more people paying attention. I don't know, but we're all trying to reach that busy, high net worth individual. So if you got some ideas, let me know. But
Absolutely.
Best advice, is take care of your current customers. Just make sure you're keeping them happy. And in our business, the worst thing can happen is you go spend 30 grand on a trip and the plane breaks. Well, plane breaks private just like American, and you got to be able to deal with that and just shoot straight and just say, hey, the light came on, you got to go back to the terminal or the FBO, and you got to be able to handle that. So just take really good care of your really good clients and prospects.
Is there any leadership advice or any quotes that you like to live by as you manage your team in your business?
There's three kinds of people in the world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who ask what happened. And I stole that from somebody. It's been around forever, but those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who ask what happened. When you deal with people that we deal with, my biggest frustration is technology, because I think I'm not a young guy anymore, but I'm old fashioned. I think you send them a handwritten thank you note. I think you call them if you got to call them early. Everybody wants to email, and I hate it. They're or text. There's nothing wrong with that. If you call and say I want a quote, but you got to talk to them just like any business. You got to get them on the phone, tell them why we're different. And here's why this quote is this, and and that's a struggle with some of the newer, younger, sounding old guys, but they want to just text and send it to them. And our clientele is typically 45 and older, so that's been a little bit of that's my advice. It's just, even though technology is hip and cool, nothing beats either. I think Zoom's taught us a lot. I'm trying to tell our guys, Zoom with clients. We never did that. I mean, now you do it because you have to, but here we are. It kind of works, pretty good.
So you're in your industry. You're touching a lot of people, whether it's commercial and they're doing it for business, or they're doing some R&R and vacation. So you probably have some insights into some pretty cool locations for vacation. What is your next vacation spot, or what is a vacation spot you've been to that you were blown away by?
I would love to go up to Alaska. I've only been to the airport once. I think that'd be really cool in the summertime. Fly up there, go fishing, and just fly around, hop around the different little airports and see. I don't know how close to a grizzly bear I want to get. I'm not a big hunter, but
you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun everybody else.
Outrun that guy. Bear gets in. Right. I mean, obviously, we do have some clients like, to fly from New York to Paris or New York to London isn't horrible, because it's like a 5-hour flight. From Dallas or Houston or LA, that becomes a big expense, because now you're going 8 hours. But we have some clients, this would be kind of cool, I could do this. Just fly first class over to London, New York, wherever. Then let us charter a Citation or a Lear, just kind of hop around Europe, because now you're not spending that big money to fly over. I think it'd be neat to kind of take a private plane into like Austria and Switzerland. I've been fortunate to go to a lot of places around that. But I haven't been there. So the best trip was South Africa. I'd love to go back to South Africa. That's a long flight. We flew a client there last year.
Well, that's got to be a G5 to get over there, right? I mean,
at least we actually did a climbs in Florida. We flew a G4 south to Sao Paulo, I think, or it was Rio de Janeiro. Refueled and went over that way. But from New York, you'd have to have probably even a G550 Global Express 5,000, 6,000. The new Gulfstream 650s. I know you can hit Dallas to Shanghai from here. So from New York, it should be easy to hit South Africa. But there's only a few number of planes that can actually go. Like Dallas, just to give you an idea. Dallas to London, a G4 won't make it nonstop. It's got to stop, Bangor, Maine for fuel. A G5 will make it. So, but some of the newer Falcons, 7X, and the Gulfstreams and the Globals, they've got legs, they got range.
So this is kind of in season 3. We call it just the at the end of it, we do a bunch of series of yes/no questions. It's kind of the speed round. Just whatever comes to your head, yes or no. We try to ask all of our guests the same question. So here we go. Are you going to get the vaccine when it's made available to you? Yes or no?
Yes.
Social media companies today, are they acting like hypocrites about their posting and cleansing of conservatives, or do you think it's a valid concern to close a lot of these conservative accounts?
Absolutely. I don't like it.
How many more stimulus packages will we get in 2021?
Probably 2. I bet there's this one and probably 2 more. I mean, I would bet.
And the last question is, and this is a question that you're apt to answer, flying commercial is okay, yes or no?
Yes. I wouldn't feel, unsafe. I would just take all the precautions. It's just, you're around a lot of people. So if you have a high risk medical condition, I wouldn't do it. And we see a lot of that. People that are flying their moms, or they don't want them to be on an airplane. So if you're healthy and active and, you don't fall into that really high risk group, I would say wear that mask and use your hand sanitizer and hope nobody on that plane has COVID.
Well, David, I'm happy to announce that we're really excited that Status Jets has become a sponsor of the podcast, and
thank you.
We look forward to working with you guys and learning from you guys. I think there's a lot of corollaries between wealth management and private aviation in terms of marketing. So we look forward to working with you guys to help each other out. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Likewise, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
This show is brought to you by StatusJet. Elevate your status. Fly anywhere, anytime, and experience the difference. Visit statusjet.com to charter your private jet today. Thanks for listening to this episode of Non-Beta Alpha. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube so you never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or simply share this episode with your friends. And now you know.
All price references and market forecasts correspond to the date of this recording. This podcast should not be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced in whole or in part. The information contained in this podcast does not constitute research or recommendation from Non-Beta Alpha Inc., Wentworth Management Services LLC, or any of their affiliates to the listener. Neither Non-Beta Alpha Inc., Wentworth Management Services LLC, nor any of their affiliates make any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information contained in this podcast, and any liability, therefore including in respect of direct, indirect, or consequential loss or damage is expressly disclaimed. The views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily those of Non-Beta Alpha Inc. or Wentworth Management Services LLC, and Non-Beta Alpha Inc. and Wentworth Management Services LLC are not providing any financial, economic, legal, accounting, or tax advice or recommendations in this podcast. In addition, the receipt of this podcast by any listener is not to be taken as constituting the giving of investment advice by Non-Beta non-Beta Alpha Inc. or Wentworth Management Services LLC to that listener, nor to constitute such person a client of any affiliate of non-Beta Alpha Inc. or Wentworth Management Services LLC. This does not constitute an offer to buy or sell any security. Investments in security may not be suitable for all investors. An investment of any security may involve risk and the potential loss of your initial investment. Investors should review all risk factors before investing. Investors should perform their own due diligence before considering any investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Investment products, insurance, and annuity products are not FDIC insured, not bank guaranteed, not insured by a federal government agency, may lose value.